Good morning, everyone. First, thanks for inviting us today. So the talk is Community Center. For those of you who are there on Tuesday night, you're going to see a lot of the same presentation that we did Tuesday night. There's going to be a little bit of a difference, though. If you were there on Tuesday night, you heard me say that I did something that city managers should never do. I did the presentation myself, which is not usually a good idea. That's why we have staff, and I shouldn't be doing things like that, but I thought, given how big this project was, that I would do it. Today, I'm not going to do that. Today, our Citizen Information Coordinator, Erica Ray, is going to do it. She's been incredibly involved with this project from day one. She's been at all the task force meetings, every single thing that's been going on, she's been involved in. So she's going to do the presentation this morning. Although when I did arrive, I noticed that there's a microphone and a captive audience, so maybe I should have done this myself, but we'll let Erica do it. So Erica, why don't you take this, and then we'll be here for questions and everything else as soon as she's done with this.
Great. Well, I hope not to let you down, Chris. So Erica Ray, nice to see you all, many familiar faces. So I will go through the presentation, take questions after or as we go, I suppose. So basically on the agenda, what we'll go through is a bit of the history of the project, the community outreach that was conducted as part of it. We'll talk over the building design and the materials that were reviewed by the task force, programming of the existing community center and mapping that into the new community center, some of the costs and planned bid alternates, and the schedule moving forward. So I know there have been many iterations of this project over the last several years. I'll focus on the last two. In 2014 and 15, we took on an update to our Civic Center Master Plan, which was a 2009 effort. The focus of that was I'll back up. We've basically gone through this project in two very different approaches these last two times. So in 14-15, it was a very community-driven process, and we had no set budget. So we went out into the community, we had stakeholder meetings, we had community engagement meetings to find out what are the facilities that you desire, the amenities, and we designed a community center around that, a plan for one anyway. That resulted in a 55,600 square foot facility that was going to cost $87.4 million. What we found out through the Measure A bond request was that the community wasn't willing to foot that bill. So in 2017, the City Council took a different approach. They put together a facility assessment and decided to look at Hillview. What could we get for a set budget of $20 million? We also looked at several options. So one would be renovating the existing Hillview Community Center. What would be those costs? Constructing a new facility with the defined budget just mentioned, and then planning a phased construction approach. So we found through that process that council favored constructing a new facility with a set budget. At that time, council directed staff to move forward to create a capital improvement project for that building and begin selection of a qualified architect. In 2017, council set a community strategic priority to have a new community center, a new or refurbished community center built at Hillview by December 2020. So a bit of the timeline here. In April 2017, the City Council approved a community center project with a $25 million budget and adopted a resolution establishing an 11-member citizen task force. In July of 2017, we brought on Nolan Tam Architects to work with the task force to put together a building design and work on community outreach. And in September 2017, the task force had gotten quite a bit of work done, and we went to the City Council with some of the task force ideas to make sure that the direction we were moving in was in line with the council's goals and expectations. At that time, the task force had identified some ideas for the community center that they felt would really enhance the project, And we wanted to make sure that that was going to be in line with, again, council's expectations. So at that time, we did ask for an increase in budget to expand the footprint of the building, increase the quality of the facilities that are there, and some connectors from the library to the community center to increase that vitality of the flow between the two buildings. At that time, council also reviewed the general site layout that the task force was interested in pursuing and approved moving forward with that. In 2018, the community center remained a council priority, and in March 2018, the City Council reviewed the schematic design documents that were put together by Nolan Tam with direction from the task force, and proceeded to direct Nolan Tam to move forward with the design. In July, the final design was reviewed by council, and council directed staff to explore a few different alternatives that they were looking at. There was some discussion of the roof materials that were used, and some of the flow of traffic for drop-off in that. So after receiving that council feedback, we still had some commissions to run the project by, those being the Complete Streets Commission and the Planning Commission. So those were some of the focus areas that we sought feedback from. In September, back in August was when the Planning Commission reviewed the project and provided unanimous approval to recommend that project moving forward to council. And in September is when council approved the final design. The community outreach for this project was very extensive, and I think that it was amazing being a part of the 2014 effort and 2014-15 effort and this one. The difference of having the task force was immense. It was incredibly helpful to have this engaged body of residents that had various expertise. We had someone with an environmental background. We had Kathy Lazarus, who has a lot of civic engineering background. So those individuals they were sought out specifically by council for their diverse expertise, and they brought a lot with them to the project. In addition, they each did individual outreach. So they were here at the library seeking additional public outreach on the plans, and just did an incredible amount of work. So in all, there were 22 public presentations, 7 stakeholder focused meetings, and 14 design development working group meetings. That DDWG is what we call it, is comprised of 2 members of the task force who were asked to continue on. And we had a Parks and Rec commissioner, a youth commissioner, and a senior commissioner working with Nolan Tam and various city staff from engineering, planning, and recreation to continue developing those schematic designs to get to the final process where we're ready to go out to bid now. So the task force was incredible in putting together some guiding principles very early on. They realized there had been a lot of planning done, and there were a lot of expectations from the community that were already very well known. So some of those guiding principles were that they wanted to have an aspirational, inclusive, flexible, and multi-generational space that honored the rich diversity of Los Altos. They wanted it to really feel that it was part of the Civic Center and compatible in character. They looked for a community building that had a park-like setting, and they were very focused on an energy efficient and sustainable building that anticipated for future expansion. And because we knew that we were working with a limited budget, it was important to maximize outdoor space and increase the usable in order to increase the usable program space. This means, outdoor patios where maybe we can have a yoga class or an art class, different activities that could take place outside of the traditional classroom. So this is an overview of the schematic design, and I wanted to put this on here because we went through so many iterations of this layout. So much thought was put into it by the task force and designers, and then community input was sought additionally. So what you see here down in the bottom corner, the seniors, I'll give you a little bit of overview of the two main entrances to give you a bit of background. So down here by the seniors, this is the Hillview side of the building. And up here where the main lobby is, this is the pointing towards the History Museum and Library. So you'll see there's an interesting angle of that lobby, and the goal being to provide a welcoming sort of flow from the library into the community center. We received a lot of feedback from seniors that they wanted easy access to the facilities, so we were sure to locate them close to the parking lot, restroom facilities nearby as well. Many of these rooms are multifunctional, meaning they can be used for different activities. Some of the larger rooms have dividers built in so that, you know, if you have a smaller activity that you have less people attending, we can make that room a bit smaller for you, more intimate. Some of the materials that the task force decided on, or I'm sorry, I should say the DDWG, you know, we're looking at very nice natural sort of elements. There was a lot of thought put into acoustics of the building. So some of these wood plats that you see on top for the ceiling are both, you know, appealing and absorb a lot of sound. We know from experience visiting other community centers that noise can be quite an issue in those big open spaces. So that was something that we put a lot of thought into. So I'm going to show you a few renderings of the building. These are some of the latest renderings. This is the entrance from the Library History Museum side, and you'll see the bocce courts to the left. This is a couple of interior views. So the one on top is looking out towards the History Museum, and the one on the bottom is more looking towards the courtyard view of the community center. You'll notice that this space is quite large, and there are a lot of gathering spaces. That was something that we put a lot of thought into, because in addition to those spaces being flexible for activities such as book sales and receptions, we wanted there to be space for small groups to meet. There was a lot of talk of placemaking and, you know, people in small, you know, that maybe work from home, having places to kind of gather at the community center and just sit down, open their laptop, and have some space. This is the entrance from the Hillview side. And these are some views from that. The one on the top is looking out that entrance. You'll see more gathering space there, some nooks and quiet corners, hopefully for students to maybe do some studying. There's plans for artwork to be showcased in that area. And the image you see on the bottom here is looking towards the courtyard. You'll see kind of an orange box-like area. Those are two small conference rooms to provide smaller meeting space for individuals. The top image you see here is of the senior room, which has a divider wall between it so it can be split into two. The bottom image is of the large community room, which can seat up to 280 people, I believe it was. So moving on to schedule mapping, you know, it was very important that to our city council that we were able to accommodate our existing programming at the new community center. So this is just an example of some of our peak programming, how it would plug into the new community center. Basically, to note, the new community center has 20,188 square foot of programmable space. The existing is 18,075. Although Hillview is a bigger site, there are a lot of unused spaces in that building, or spaces that are dedicated to outside groups such as you know, Friends of the Library, long-term leases like Children's Corner, and we have a Chinese school there as well. Construction cost estimates, so there's a many-paged document with all of those construction costs, but to kind of drill it down to a more concise look, the building cost that we're looking at for the current design is $15.2 million. The site work, which includes all of the repavement of the parking lot and the landscaping and the paths around the building. That site work is $5.5 million, and some of the general condition requirements and fees for inflation equates to 4.1, so we're looking at 24.8 million total construction cost estimate. Bid alternates, for those uneducated on this, it was definitely a new concept for me to look at. It's an interesting idea for us to basically have more flexibility in what we end up with the final design. So the base bid includes all of the elements that we know we have to have. These alternates are what we would like to have. So our base bid is currently estimated at our project total, which is 24.8 million, I believe. These alternates are in addition to what we expect the cost to come in at. So this way, when we put the project out to bid, we can have those bidders give us their prices for all of these alternates. And at that time, what the hope is that the base bid comes in at or below budget, so we can easily add in some of these other priorities. And we'll just kind of have to wait and see once we put that bid out. But some of those alternates are the pickleball and basketball court that are proposed sort of near between the Neutra House and the kinder prep area of the building. Some of them are enhancements like adding skylights to the building. We have included 10% for PV panels. The PV panels we've included in the base bid will cover 10% of our building load, but there was a desire by at least one council member to see what we could do if we maximized, how much it would be to maximize the roof area to have PV panels across. So I'll skip forward on these. Moving forward, there are no programs scheduled at Hillview Community Center after March 31st. We have notified all tenants that they must vacate the facility by May 31st, and city staff is preparing and is expected to move to the underground at Shout Park by June 1st. A bit on the project schedule. Some of the items that have already been complete in January of 2018. We know we completed the schematic design. June of 2018, the design development was complete. February 2019, construction documents were submitted for building permits. And now moving forward, in May is when we expect to go for the bidding documents to go out. June, we hope to have the groundbreaking happen, and then we'll be on track to have the community center construction complete by December 2020. So I guess now is time for question and answers.